Jiva Korja. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. This is Fireside Chat 126. And as I usually do, I will begin with a prayer for peace. Gamara Shiakon or Fud na Krinya. Gamara Shiakon in our Jaili, agus in our Jira. Gunari Lin Lena Kuj Garmaka, Gamwich Buikus Chief, Jeh Khivska, the Spirit Khivtaka. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities, for peace. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today, may an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the holy mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So, welcome all. This is Eimear Burke here. Welcome to another Fireside Chat, where I'm in conversation with a member of the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. So let me see where you're from. Hi, West Cornwall, Bedford, Texas, Limousin in France, the Netherlands, stormy Netherlands. Hi, Auke. Plattsburgh, New York, Louisiana, Belgium, Hertfordshire. Where have we got? West Cornwall. I said that before, didn't I? There's Wyoming. Just wonderful to see you all. And Las Vegas. It must be hot there. Niagara, Canada, the world. St. Augustine, Florida, Iowa, Norfolk Island, that's in Australia, New Zealand, wow, LA County, Falmouth, Bourneville, Chile, Kinsale, a bit nearer. And anyway, it's lovely to Colorado Springs, brilliant, Staffordshire. So today we're going to the UK, to Dartmoor, and I'd like to introduce you to my guest. Now, remember, I just have to apologize. There's a lag between, because of her internet connection isn't so great because it's a rural area. So just bear with us. We're using a little code system to indicate when we each want to speak. So let's hope we can enjoy this system. I'd like to introduce Bo McAllister. Bo, you're so welcome.
Hi, Eimear. This is my badger, and I'm going to try and remember to pick it up every time I need to speak. So, hi, everyone.
This is my salmon, and I'm going to do the same. So this is, so Bo, just tell us a little bit what Dartmoor, I mean, we have a lot of people from all over the world who may not have heard of Dartmoor, but have no idea what it's like. So just tell us what your landscape is like.
Okay, well, it's a very beautiful landscape, Dartmoor. It's one of the national parks of Britain, a very big one. It is very high up with lots of granite, so there's lots of tors on it. There's also lots of standing stones and stone rows, and also rivers and the lower bits and forested areas and everything. And animals, as horses and cattle and sheep on it. Yeah, very beautiful place.
And is there a special sacred site there that calls to you?
It's hard to pick one, really. I mean, as a grove, we've done quite a lot of rituals in a place called Merivale, which has a very long stone row and quite a few circles, and has a very powerful energy. But it's just walking on the moor, it has a powerful energy. As long as you can get away from the crowds, it does get crowded in summer at certain points, but Yeah, and there is a place called Bone Hill actually that is very, very high, and you have to keep. It's one of those hills that you sort of climb up, and you think, "Yeah, I'm just getting to the top." You get to the top, and, oh, I've just got to get to a little bit more top. Oh, yeah, I've just got, and on you go, sort of thing. And then when you get to the actual top, it's fantastic. You can see across so much of Dartmoor. You can see out to the sea. I mean, it's beautiful. So, and it's incredibly windy and wild, and yeah, I love it for that.
And what's the name of that place?
And that place, very fitting for Samhain, it's called Bone Hill.
Ah, okay. So I meant to Samhain blessings to you and to all our viewers. Today is, well, traditionally will be All Souls Day, where we, and I suppose many traditions remember the dead, and just like to honor that. Pat Booker has a question. Are there any giant spectral hounds on the moor?
Sorry, what? Giant what?
Giant spectral hounds.
Hounds?
Hounds.
Oh.
Hounds on the moor.
Oh, hounds. Hounds, like
ghostly ones.
Ghostly hounds, right, like in Sherlock Holmes, are we talking about? There may be. But personally, I haven't seen any, but I'm not ruling it out. Let's put it that way.
Yes, because that's where the Hound of the Baskervilles is set, isn't it? Sherlock Holmes's book. I've been to the museum and I can't remember what town it's in.
Oh no, I don't know. There's a tomb. That's at a church that was actually burnt down. That's in a town called Buckfastleigh. So that might be linked to the family. Yeah, but I think So it may be Buckfastleigh. I'm not sure though.
Okay, so tell us what brought you to Druidry.
I think initially it was when I had just finished my training as an acupuncturist, which was whilst I was still teaching, done lots of different things. I then did a year in Chinese herbs, which was really interesting, and I think they're amazing. But at the end of the year, I thought, well, why have I trained in Chinese herbs when actually my love is just the herbs that are around me? And since I was a kid, I was always fascinated by, all the brews you do, brewing up all sorts of things. I thought, well, so I started looking online for a herbal course. And for some weird reason, it took me to the OBOD website with a little a thing you could listen to for maybe 2 minutes or something, entering the forest or something like that. And I just listened to it. Yeah, that's it. That's what I need to do. Not a herbal course. I just need to do that. So that's how I got into it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, how long are you in the order? A long time.
I'm really useless with dates. I was thinking about this earlier because I think I bet you're going to ask me. I don't know, 12 years, maybe 13. I really don't know. I'm sure somebody can tell me, but I'm not the right person to say.
Before we go, there's lots of comments about Dartmoor and the bog and the sightings of a very big black panther. And Ricky says Fox Tor Myers was the inspiration for Doyle's great Grimpenmire in The Hound of the Baskervilles. Do you know Fox Tor Myers?
No. No, I don't. I mean, Dartmoor's massive.
How big is it?
I'll have to pass on that one as well. It's big, but I don't know how big. Sorry, I'm not very good, am I?
I was going to ask you, how many days does it take you to walk through it? No, I'm that's a jokey question. So, so what do you do now? I know you're retired, but I think people would really like, before we get to, what you've done before you retired, because I met you when you were in that incarnation, and I found that really, really interesting.
Okay. Um, okay. So what I did just before I retired, I spent 11 years as a funeral celebrant and a soul midwife. I have, as I was saying to you, I have recently done a fellow Druid's funeral. So I'm not completely retired, but I've sort of come out of the business. I've come out of the funeral business. Before I was a funeral celebrant, I was a teacher for 21 years, and during that I trained as an acupuncturist. And before I was a teacher, I did nursing and care work, so all in service to people. But yeah, it was when I met you, I was working as a very busy funeral celebrant and soul midwife.
Yes. Albie says, this is your husband, it takes 17 days to walk across Dartmoor.
Oh,
anyway,
I can't hear.
Albie says it takes 17 days to walk across Dartmoor. Can you hear me? No?
Okay. Yeah, I can now. Yeah. I might try it out sometime and I'll let you know if that's accurate. I suppose it depends how fast you're walking, how much rain has fallen, you know.
Absolutely. So how do you manage your time now that you're retired? I'm very much a doer. I make a lot of things. Billy Badger actually was something I made. I do lots of felting. I spin, and then sometimes I knit things out of my wool, but my wool's a bit chunky and it doesn't make the best knits. What else do? I play a lot of music. I play the fiddle. I have quite a few gongs, and so does Albie. So we occasionally play the gongs. Quite busy with our local grove, and I've just stepped from 2 years as lead for Whitehorse Camps, and that kept me quite busy. And within my local community, I'm a parish councillor, so that's serving 3 different villages, and I'm one of the members of the Climate Sustainability Group. And it's really nice. I run a community coffee morning, and I ran a tree walk the other day for local residents, which was really lovely because we've got a very beautiful heath on the side of the village with lots of trees and just beautiful bits of land. And I was able to introduce sort of local residents to the OM and to different trees, the significance of different trees, a little bit of folklore. And one of my friends is a forester, so he was chipping in as well, and we even shared some poems. So I kind of serve my local community and the Druid community. And when I'm not doing that, reading a lot, spinning, fiddling, and needle felting. Now, that was an earful, and I'm there's so many things I want to unpack. What's your badger made of?
Okay, so he's just made of wool that it was originally a fleece, and then I put the fleece through the carding machine, which separates it all out and makes a sort of, I think it's called a rolag, I think that's the term, I might have it wrong. And then you get these very sharp needles that have barbs on the end, and you're sort of doing this, you know. He's a bit of a naughty badger. He gets, he's been to quite a few camps. He's trying to, there we are. I don't know whether you can, there we are. Woo, I can see him now.
So it's a needle felted badger.
It is. And through lockdown, I started making, now she's a bit bright, so you might not see her. Oops, how do I get the angle right? This is Wilhelmina. She's one of my last gnomes. I wish she doesn't like to be called a gnome. I made about 14 during lockdown. I made about 15 rugs. I'm even ridiculous things through lockdown. But she is the guardian of the magic mushrooms and the toadstools. That's what her job is. And she's a little bit grumpy. You might not be able to tell because she's a bit bright. As I say, she's got sort of, So she's got a nice little home that I've built in a shell. So she's just found herself a nice home where she can have her mushrooms in front of her, or toadstools. I think they're toadstools. And there she is, floating on a like in the sea, like a coracle.
That is so beautiful, Bo. Just Pat Booker suggested someone should make and market felt Eimers. I will not be felted. I'm telling you, Pat Booker. So she's really, really sweet. You're incredibly talented. I'm just like blown away. Yes, and you I remember in the town hall you make cloaks, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I did do loads of cloaks, and had a little stall. I haven't made a cloak for ages, but it's nice. It's nice making magical clothes. I mean, I do make other clothes as well. I make my grandchildren weird and wonderful things that I don't actually think they ever wear. They sort of wear it. They say, "Oh, thanks, Nana Bo," and then I never see them in them again. But you've got to do that, haven't you? I don't knit them Christmas jumpers or anything like that. I make them weird things, and I do make them cloaks sometimes as well. But having said that, I took them to Loo Camp this year, and they did wear some weird and wonderful things that I'd made. Clothes. I mean, yeah, it's nice making sort of magical clothes like robes and cloaks.
It's lovely, for your grandchildren to have such a crazy granny making those things and to be brought to camp, and then get an opportunity to wear the cloaks that they're not going to wear to school, but that there is an environment that it's okay to do that. I think that's brilliant. And you're incredibly creative. So there's a man called Albie Bruce who says, a very talented lady, definitely.
Well, thank you. But I always think of myself as sort of a jack of all trades, master of nothing, really. But, and that used to be a bit of a bugbear for me. But I think that's okay to be a jack of all trades. Being the youngest of 6 children from a, big family, I used to think I had to sort of be something, and I had very talented brothers and sisters, ballet dancers, musicians, and, they all seemed to, my other sister could play the piano. They all did everything with ease. And I sort of tried doing things, and yeah, I can do things. I can do quite a few things, but I don't do anything to a brilliant standard. But I've learned to sort of accept that, and that's really okay. With my advancing years comes a lot of self-acceptance, and so I enjoy myself and my little sort of talents much more than I ever did when I was younger. So I think that's the sort of, with your hair going white, you actually get a lot of self-acceptance. There's a benefit in aging.
There is, and I think it's a wonderful place to come to actually get all the pleasure you do. I mean, you are talented. To make herself the grumpy, what do you call her again? The grumpy, I've
lost the picture. Oh, there we are.
Okay. Your little witch with the minder of the mushrooms, your badger. That's incredibly talented. It's not easy to spin. Owen says, brilliant standard, away with it, beauty and wildness far above any projection. And Catherine says, that way it never gets boring. So, and Pat Booker, who's an Ulster, Lou was multi-skilled, not a bad thing. And the thing, jack of all trades, master of none, the bit that's usually missing is far better this than master of one.
Okay.
And I remember reading an article about the value of being a polymath, so that you can combine 2 skills that you have that you're not excellent at, and you can create something else. So specialisms and skill is about knowing more and more about less and less. But when you're a generalist and you can needle felt and make grumpy gnomes and spin and play the fiddle and write poetry and sew and be a herbalist and be a celebrant and be a teacher and I think this is the gift of older age, being able to, you know what, consolidate it all. Sandy Coombs says, I still love the cushion you made me, Bo, and I'm using it at the moment, she says.
Oh. Oh, thank you. Hi, Sandy. That's sweet. Thank you. I actually love making things for people. I really do. I think crafting and then giving it away is just such a fab thing. I make soap as well, and I make weird potions. But so, yeah, I mean, it just means you can step back from the material world and having to think, oh, what do I buy that person for a present? And you make it. It takes much longer, of course, but it's like it really is something of yourself given to that person. And my gnomes are all over the place, actually. So great joy from giving things away.
I think that's wonderful. Pat again. Robert Heinlein said humans should have many talents. Specialization is for insects.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's Gabriella says, I'm a polymath.
That's the most positive spin I've had, on it all. So thank you.
Yeah, Gabriella says, I'm a polymath too. There are drawbacks, but I get very bored to be pinned down to only one thing.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, most of it is at the source of all those things that I've spoken about, is my love for creativity, but my need for creative expression. I used to spend a lot of time dancing. That was my big thing when I was younger. And in dance, I found my soul. And in dance, I found my freedom. And, in some very difficult situations, and the first time I became a single mum, for instance, I was living on this massive housing estate in London with two very, very young children, really struggling. And it was in dance that I felt completely liberated from all that, from my poverty, from my isolation, from all that. It was in dance. And it was about me finding me, you know what I mean? And that sort of moved a little bit. I find it more, in other things now, but in addition to dance. But I think for me, I would go completely bonkers without creative expression. And I think it's really important. And I feel very sad that kids, for instance, in schools, there isn't much, it doesn't seem to be, from what I can see anyway, much kind of, what's the word, but, allowance for that. They're not encouraged, and sometimes they have to sort of pay for music lessons. And, there's just... and then when they are, when they have art, there's this attitude of, looking at a child's painting, what's it supposed to be? It's like, oh my God, don't say that to a child. What's it supposed to be? It's just their art, So, I think that creative expression is so important. And, it's vital, I think, for feeling, a healthy soul. That's what I think, anyway.
What kind of dance did you do?
Well, when we were young, me and my three sisters, we would be leaping all around the place. We would put my mum and dad's classical music on and be leaping off chairs, balletically. We all went to ballet classes. And I also do Greek and character dance. We all did dance, which was, we were really lucky that my mum and dad really recognised, that. And we did it. Then when I was at uni, half my degree was dance, and I did contemporary dance. So that went into another form. Then I trained as a circle dance teacher. And I've done a little bit of flamenco, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Just different styles. All styles, but mostly just putting a piece of music on, a record on, and just... dancing to it, sort of thing. And in fact, we play this game called Ismans. I don't know why I think it's 15 minutes, and you say it as Ismans, and you sort of, one person is blindfolded and the other person, and you sort of put your finger around all the CDs. Yes, I have CDs, I have records, I have tapes, I have instruments. I'm really old school. I love it. And then you say to the person who's blindfolded, stop, and they're pointing at a particular CD. So they have to get the CD out. And then you say track number 4. And so you don't know what's going on. They put it on and then they take the blindfold off, come back, and you just dance to whatever it is. And we've done that with quite a lot of our friends. And it's just, it's lovely because you've taken away that kind of control of what you're going to dance to. You know, you've left it up to chance and you have to find your way into it. And it might be a really odd track that you'd never think of dancing to, but you have to find the sort of rhythm where you and the beat meet, sort of thing. And yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone. It's great fun.
That's brilliant. I love circle dancing. I get one opportunity a year at a camp I go to where every evening we go circle dancing. I just love it. And Poppy is, I don't know if Poppy, you're in the UK or in Crete. She said, did you say Greek dance? So I take you do Greek circle dancing. Yes?
Both, actually. When we were young, it used to be a form of, there was a sort of Greek dance that you did. You were barefoot, you were in these funny little tunics, and it was very parallel, but a little bit like contemporary dance in that respect. But I've also done Greek circle dance, but they were different sort of things, but yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Just Maria says, I envy anyone who can dance freely without self-consciousness. And then Wolf Spirit says, dance is a conversation between body and soul. I can't argue with that. Just wonderful. Yeah, just beautiful, beautiful. So what else do you do? Oh yeah, there was one thing you said. You on your tree walk the other day, you said you were telling some folk tales. So do you have a folk tale that you'd like to share with us? Or some, about the area, about the trees?
It wasn't folk tales, it was just general folklore connected with trees. And no, I'd love to pull something out the bag like that. I'm afraid I don't have tales. Occasionally I tell a story at a camp, but I don't really see myself as a storyteller as such. I did dig out a couple of poems, but I'm just not even sure they're appropriate. It was really funny because yesterday you'd asked me to, have a couple of poems. And I thought, oh, wonder where I've put that. And then I looked at them and I had this horrible realization, or perhaps not horrible, let's take the horrible out, a realization that I only write poetry when I'm either really angry or really, really desperately sad or confused or something. So, but it's, yeah, so if you want a really kind of weird poem, I've got 2. I'm just putting it out there if you want them, but you might not feel very good after I've read them.
Weird is good, Bo. We're kind of all weird here. Anyone agree? We welcome all moods. We've had tears, we've had frustration, all sorts of moods here. It's not all about tra-la-la, everything nice. So it's, yeah, Maria says we can do weird. We've had one. Yep. Their yeses are coming in. So over to you, Bo.
Okay. All right. Well, Badger would like to read it, but I'm not going to trust him with it. He's just, you wouldn't understand what he's saying. So I'm going to put Badger down. So this particular poem, I remember writing it, actually. I was sitting in a cafe. It was a very posh cafe in one of these, it's actually called Dart's Farm. It's like it started off as a very small farm growing shop, and then it's turned into this kind of like very middle class emporium where everything is super expensive. And I was there because I was in between families. I'd seen a family in the morning arranging a funeral, and I was about to go and see another family in the afternoon. So I'd taken myself in there for a posh cuppa, as you do. And everywhere I looked around, there were just people buying stuff. Yeah, stuff. It was that kind of feeling that was really getting me down, the sense of materialism in the world. And so this is the poem I wrote whilst I was having a cuppa in Dart's Farm, and it's called Stretched. Sometimes I feel I'm an alien in a material world, curled up inside shopping precincts against my better instincts. Shiny trinkets, plastic stuff, 2 for 1, I've had enough of things I don't need, things that don't feed my hungry soul. Yearning for something deeper, I'm offered something cheaper. Keep calm and carry on. I want to shout and rage and break out of this plastic, superficially elastic world. My heart is stretched. Sometimes I feel like I'm an alien in this material world.
Oh, that was wonderful, and I bet you lots of people resonated with that. Any reactions from our listeners? I think that was just, oh, what was it? Righteous anger, well deserved, well expressed, beautifully recited. I could get that absolutely. I can. Oh, Pat Booker says, I love that. Could Bo put it in the comments after? That was really good. Spot on. Yes, cheaper isn't always better. Exceptional wisdom. That was completely relatable. Oh, in a much better way. You took the words right out of my mouth. Beautiful. Brilliant. Never heard that before. Beautiful. So many hearts flew up when you were reading. And the delivery is gorgeous. I agree with you. That was an excellent delivery. If it was at the same time, which I'm, okay. I'm an alien in this material world. Thank you. Brilliant, brilliant. So you've had, Bo is a breath of fresh air, lover enthusiasm, fabulous. Yes.
Oh, I'm not.
Fabulous. Did you get fabulous? Did you get that?
I'll put it in the comments if somebody tells me how to do it. Oh, yeah, I can see. I haven't got any comment. I'm really IT useless.
No,
I've got
now,
private chat
now.
underlined. Not now.
Not
okay.
now.
Eimear will have to teach me how to do it.
You can put it in. Are you on
Right,
Facebook? Are you on Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
you can put it in
yeah.
the comments on Facebook. Brilliant.
Okay.
Tracy says,
all right, I'll do my best.
Lovely. Tracy says, there's a hopelessness connected to consumerism. Better to be angry and ready to stand ground. Very wise words, Tracy. Yeah. Well done. Wonderful rhythm. Yeah. Wonderful. And Sandy says, you put our thoughts into words. Thank you, Bo. Great poem.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have got another poem. You might want to have it a bit later, or you might want it now. This is a very different poem.
Go on.
Okay, brace yourselves. So this one, right, I'll put Badger down because you know I'm talking. This one I wrote when I was really getting rather a lot of death. I was working as a funeral celebrant. I was working as a soul midwife, which some of you will know what that means, some of you won't. I was also working for Marie Curie. So I was going out a couple of nights a week doing healthcare assistant works. When I did my training as nursing and as a nurse, I left before my final. So, so healthcare assistant work at night, working with people who were dying. Really lovely organisation, brilliant. But I couldn't be a soul midwife there. So that's a different way of treating people. It's a much softer way and much, we can talk about that if we've got time. And then I was doing funerals. And I sort of suddenly realised I was really seeing the world through death. And it's no bad thing, obviously, to think a lot about death. In some ways, think about your own death. It's good, that's good. But as long as you can sort of come back and embrace life. And I kind of got myself into a little bit much of the sort of death consciousness. But again, hey, it's Samhain, so we're all probably a little bit thinking of death. So this is a very short poem, and it's called The Smell of Death. The smell of death is a dry smell of dehydration. The smell of death is a damp smell, a fiery seat. The smell of death is a putrid smell of rotten flesh. You wouldn't want to bottle it. You wouldn't want to wear it. That's
wow.
it.
Wow. So speaking of death, I'd like you just to talk a bit more about your work as a soul midwife and what that was.
Yeah, Okay, so I trained in soul midwifery at the same time as I was training as a funeral celebrant. They sort of, the training went over several months of both of them. And why I wanted to do that is because I wanted to work with people at the end of their life and give them what would be in what we could hope for as the best possible death and the best possible dying into the death and the journeying through, and then to be their celebrant and honour their life. In reality, out of the hundreds and hundreds of funerals I did, there was just a handful of people who I'd met beforehand and worked as a soul midwife. And there were people who I worked as a soul midwife who I never got to do their funeral. So it didn't quite work out like that, but it was very beautiful training about honouring people, obviously, in their death, but also about being able to recognise different stages. And in soul midwifery, well, the training I did anyway, they see there's different stages of death. So some might start years before you die, or some might start, much sooner, and it's elemental. So it really went with Druidry very beautifully as well, because the first stage is the withdrawal of the earth element. So you stop losing, you're not so hungry, you're not so sort of centered, it's all what earth is to you. You start losing it, and that might take a really long time. And then the second stage is the withdrawal of the water element. And the water element is obviously your emotional sort of relationship to death. It's also, when the soul starts freaking out, the night of the dark soul, and, feeling very tearful about leaving those ones you love. It's all that sort of stage. And those two stages are very much interlinked. One can, a person can go from one to another, backwards and forwards. The third element to withdraw is fire, and that's very quick stage. And so that would be the stage that if anyone's here has done nursing or been with people when they're dying, where they're very agitated, picking at the bedclothes, possibly, seeing things, or even saying that people are coming for them. It's that sort of, often the stage people get sort of sedated at as well, because other people think they're in distress, whereas, it's like when we're having a fever, we'd look like that. So, it's just part of it, sort of the natural part of it. And the final stage is the withdrawal of the air element, obviously, with the, going into the sort of difficulty in breathing, the chain stoking, and then the final breath out. And the idea with soul midwifery is that you ideally work with somebody throughout those stages, and it doesn't really work, it's very seldom that you would, but ideally that's so you can recognize what stage the individual is experiencing, and you can help them through each stage. So there's different oils, for instance, and there's different sort of things you can do. I mean, that's when I started collecting sound bowls, and I used to find that some people really loved to listen to a particular note on a sounding bowl but couldn't handle another one. And you'd help them create death plans for their ideal death. And again, like a birth plan, it might all go out the window at the last minute, and you might encourage them to think about, who they want with them and who they don't want with them, just as important. You might encourage them to think about leaving things, legacies, like writing letters for children on their birthdays that you wouldn't, the person won't be there for, or helping them make photograph collages as a sort of legacy memento, or those sorts of things. So it's all helping somebody really through their death, and then at the actual moment is helping them through the threshold. And that was also when I started becoming, doing a little bit of psychopumping. So that's sort of my psychopomp work, which I haven't mentioned. It's a bit of a love-hate thing for me. I've been told a lot of times through spirit that that's what I should be doing. And I kind of, it started when I was a child. I started hearing spirit, and I sort of was totally freaked, actually, as most people are when they first, and I didn't really want it. And when I started meditation practice in my teens, and I started getting clearly, always in my left ear, getting people talking to me. Then when I started training in funeral celebrancy, sometimes when I'm writing the service, again, on the left shoulder, somebody will be talking to me. so sometimes with my psychopomp work, I sort of developed it later when I did some shamanic training, but that was also when it was starting to become very obvious that it might be more that, it might be more, you know, on the other side of the veil, if you like, rather than just helping somebody die. There might be work for people who are a bit lost and don't know they're dead. So I joined a circle of other soul midwives, and we used to meet, or we didn't meet physically. We used to just every Sunday night, we'd light a candle and go into our own sort of meditation of psychopomp work, and we were signposting. It was like signposting. What happened with me is that it used to be lots and lots of babies used to come through, really a lot of babies, sometimes too many babies, and I did write a poem about them, but I couldn't find them. But yeah, so it's sort of, sorry, I'm really rambling a lot, but I had even forgotten about all that. But that was very much triggered by doing my soul midwifery training, was psychopomping, which yeah, I do differently now, but I am a little bit resistant. Sometimes I have to just pull back and just sort of leave the dead to themselves and just be with the living.
Can you, for those who don't know what psychopomp work is, can you just describe it a bit?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm sure somebody can describe it much better than me. You've been a guide. You've been a guide for souls. You might be a guide for souls. Yeah, as I say, people who've been who've died suddenly, fatal accident or a murder or something. They may have sort of literally kind of. It's like when you're shocked, we sometimes jump out of ourselves, and you know we need to be retrieved. We need to come back to ourselves. It's almost like that in death for some people. So they've kind of, it's all happened so quick that they're kind of a little bit stuck. Or some people get very attached to the earth, and with my teacher for soul midwifery, she said people who had addictions got very attached, and I don't quite know why. I can't really give them an explanation for that as to why that might happen. Sometimes people are just attached emotionally, or somebody is pulling them back. You say you'd be with me forever, and now you're gone, that sort of thing. So there's different reasons why people might not have sort of travel to wherever we travel to. We've probably all got a different idea of that sort of thing, but the journey onwards, the journey sort of onwards, yeah. So people can be stuck, and I'm no expert, but there's a sense of stuckness, and it's almost like you're just signposting them on with a lot of love. I mean, it's different for me now. I now work with the Morrigan, and I work at the seashore, and that's sort of something different, but it's taking people across the water sort of thing when I do it. When I'm not resisting and saying I don't want to know sort of thing, but yeah, so it's helping people, whatever words you use. You might use the word afterlife, but I always feel a bit funny about that word, but yeah, helping people journey on. Yeah,
It's you weren't rambly at all. So I think it's really important sacred work. I understand. I would pick up a lot of babies myself. These are ones who miscarried or terminated, but not acknowledged because of the circumstances around which this happened, and that pain, and the beautiful work to be able to send somebody, well, I mean, to the light, or and then those who've been murdered or died suddenly, or people left with guilt often get stuck. I mean, I have a house I've had to clear a few entities from the house here. It's fine. Well, they're still here. The happy ones are here. The unhappy ones are gone. But it's really, really important sacred work. It's interesting. This is not quite the same thing, but just before we came on, I was at the Beyond the Brain conference, or the beginning of it, organized by the Scientific and Medical Network. And I watched a film called Life with Ghosts. And I've been doing research in the US on assisted after-death communication. So for people who have chronic or complex grief and have not been able to pass through that grieving process, where it's not that the therapy is about helping them ease their grief, but many of them have experienced connection, communication with their loved one, and as a result, huge healing. And so for people who've gone through conventional bereavement therapies and it hasn't worked, that's so, you know, with the psychopomp, you're obviously helping the people on the other side continue on wherever they need to go. And then this other one is helping people on this side to continue and go where they need to go. And yet it's not about losing connection. It's having that connection with the one who's passed over. So Sandy says, would you describe it as assisting them to the light? I would. Would you describe them as such?
Sorry, would I describe it as a what?
Assisting the souls, shall we say, to the light.
Assisting. To the light. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. A funny story came up. In fact, I was talking about it today. It reminded me when you were talking. When I just trained in soul midwifery, I was working for a care agency at the time. My funeral celebrancy was just getting going, but not enough to live on. So I was, doing quite a lot of care work in people's homes, one-to-one sort of thing. And the care agency, they knew I'd trained as a soul midwife, and they said, "Oh, Bo, you need to go into this lady's house." She said, there's something going on there. Her dead husband won't leave her. So they sent me into there like a ghost busting carer. And I went into her home. And she had quite a nice sort of house. She was a well-to-do lady in Budley Salterton, lovely lady. And I said, what's the problem? And I didn't know what to do. I felt completely out of my depth. And she said, well, he's in the sitting room, she said. And he's just sitting on the settee with all these young girls, and he won't go. And this was her husband, who died, I don't know, a few months previous, something. I wasn't quite sure whether she was a bit knocked that he was with young girls, or the fact that he wouldn't go. I wasn't really quite sure. So I said, okay, I'll go in. And I thought, goodness, I don't know. So I went in, and I went in with a candle, and I went in with a singing bowl. But what I really went in with when I sort of, just took a breath, centered myself, but went in with an open heart and just kind of walked around the room, sort of, I don't know what words it was, just sort of go in love, whatever it was I said, walking around, doing the singing bowl, clearing the air with candle, this sort of thing. I got halfway around the room and I came to this chair. Now on this chair was a jumper, quite a big jumper. But I mean, even to this day, I can feel sort of odd about talking about this. This jumper was stiff. It was completely full. It was completely full of somebody, but there was nobody in it. It was all round. The jumper was really full. It was like somebody inflated it, you know what I mean? And the presence, it was like, whoa, I didn't feel, it wasn't, I mean, it was tingly, but it wasn't a malevolent presence or anything. It wasn't like, this something, but it really sort of, I really felt like, right, okay, center yourself, Bo, so I stayed quite a long time with the jumper and just giving it a lot of love. And then something shifted. I could sense there was something. So I then went out of the room and said to her, well, my hand, would you like to come back in? And she came back and she said, oh yeah, that feels so much better, thank you. And I said, so what would you like to do now? And she said, let's go to Tesco's. Maddie.
That's just brilliant. It's a brilliant story. That is fascinating. Wait a second. Francis has just given, one of the reasons why people with addictions can get attached to the physical realm is because they can continue to feed from those engaged in active addiction. It is not uncommon to encounter someone, for example, who has died of alcoholism, and with them is a strong odor of alcohol. They need healing first, and there are different ways that can be done, but it consists of giving them power to make the transition into the world of the departed instead of them being stuck or attached to other persons. What a story. So it's just fascinating, and it's such precious sacred work to be doing this, and to recognize that that this is real. So in this film I watched, there was one of the women there. She does automatic writing, communicating with her husband for years, and that is how she's managed her grief. And in the film, she went to a psychiatrist who kept asking her, was she an addict? Was she an alcoholic? Was she drinking? Was she stoned? Was she this? Could not acknowledge the veracity. And this woman was saying, no, I sit at my table, and I speak to him, I write to him, and he writes to me. And so, being able to acknowledge people's experience, and that is so important. Philosophical says, I'm speechless. That's amazing, to be prepared with a theoretical foundation when confronted with the reality. We need more people like Bo.
Oh, thank you.
and absolutely. And Geraldine says the same. Smashing. I appreciate you both. So it's about, and that sets people free, because you're actually hearing their story, you're hearing their narrative, and then you're open to, somebody else might have gone in and not seen the jumper the way it was, but it's when you're open to it, and it's really beautiful. Thank you. There's a question that somebody asked, is how has Druidry supported your inner, or supported you, or engaged with your inner life? How has it affected your inner world, your inner life?
Coming to Druidry was it completed something for me. I had started practicing meditation when I was in my late teens, and I had actually lived in an ashram for a bit, and had a very a life where I was meditating hours of the day, and but it felt separate from the world. It felt like this was my experience, my amazing inner experience, and I was really experiencing a lot of stuff that I don't experience now when I meditate. But the world felt like it was moving away. It felt like me and the world, sort of thing, which I knew wasn't healthy. Coming to Druidry, it was suddenly, there was this feeling that it completes a circle, and that it completes me and makes me an authentic person. That came instantly, sort of thing. But, going through the grades, of course, each grade giving, you something so much richer. And with all my work with death, it was totally coincided with me entering the ovate grade. And sometimes I didn't know what was being an ovate and what was being a celebrant and what was being a cell midwife, because the three were just mingling together in the forest. Yeah, I think it's like now I do a sort of a meditation in the morning, which is a sort of my own hodgepodge of a bit of this and a bit of that, and that feels really okay. It feels like, well, that's me. That's just me. That's my meditation that serves me. And I say my meditation, a lot of time it's just me sitting there thinking, sitting there creating a shopping list, having a big, right, what do I do today? And then it's like, hang on a minute. Meant to be stilling things, meant to be watching things, meant to be moving back from your thoughts, and just occasionally the fraction, just get that, oh yeah, right, I can see my thoughts out there, and this is me. Druidry, so much it's given me. Just having that communication with the outside world, but with the living world. I always loved trees as a kid. I always loved trees. I always loved, animals, particularly animals out, just that you see outside, sort of thing, just doing their own thing. But it suddenly gave me an ability to communicate with them. And that was, I feel really right and go really deep with that communication. And just feeling that whatever season it is, you can enjoy. I get seasonal affective disorder. So I had to dig out my sun lamp. Not a sun lamp, sorry, it's what's it called?
Daylight.
It's a light box, that's it, yeah. And if I don't do that, and if I don't sort of, give myself some extra sort of Lumieres, I think they're called, or something like that, I can start feeling like I'm falling a bit. I really can. So that's something that's happening, to my brain, and has been for years, but I think I also, before I came to Druidry, I would slightly anticipate autumn and slightly dread it, because I would think about the light and what it was going to do for me. And there was also several things. My mum died in the autumn. There was all these sort of things that were sort of all in a blob together. And Druidry just sort of, has given me an ability to just actually enjoy any season. It doesn't, because every single season brings such a different tapestry, the trees when they're bare, the shapes that you see. I can see the birds. I mean, we've got loads of trees in our garden. We're really lucky, and we can see the birds in the winter. We hear them in the summer, but we see them in the winter. And, it's, it's just, I could go on and on, but, it's, has made me feel very full and able to sort of reach my authenticity for who and accept myself and love myself. So many things. And great communities as well.
Oh, thank you so much. So what would you say that is just so rich and so beautiful, and I bet you many people can really, really identify and resonate with, or a lot of what you say resonates with me. Robin says, I grew up spending more time in forests than having friends, so finding Druidry helped me recognize and boost that connect. Every season is equally beautiful. Yeah. So what would you say has been your greatest achievement, or that which you're most proud of?
Achievements. Having 3 wonderful children, 3 wonderful grandchildren. I think being a mother, it's an underrated achievement. And having beautiful relationships with them all as well. Really watching them grow and enjoying that. It's a funny word for me, achievements. I mean, I'm certainly a doing person, but are they achievements? I don't know. I find that a really hard question. Just having this life, really, still being here, still being here is an achievement, still being here. I don't know, really. Sorry, not very good at answering that one.
No, you've actually said your 3 children and your grandchildren. That's a huge, and to still be alive and to do all the other things that you're doing. What has been the biggest challenge you've had that you've overcome?
Not sure how to measure them. I've been made a single parent. It's a funny expression, isn't it? I found myself a single parent twice. So those are really challenging times, being yet again with children to bring up with very little money. But, getting through them. And in fact, I did my degree as a single parent, and my A-levels and everything. It was like I didn't have any qualifications. And I thought, no, I do not want to be on the social. I definitely don't want to be on the social for the rest of my life. So it was, even though it was really hard, it was also, it was a motivator. The energy of it was a motivator. So, those difficult moments can often be very motivational. I lost my parents by the time I was 35. Both my parents had died. My brothers have both died. So I kind of, that's maybe why I'm quite comfortable with death, because I've known death, and sort of, not particularly young, but, young enough sort of thing. I think those have been probably the most difficult things. But it's real growth points as well. Anything that is a challenge, I think is so much potential for growth. you know, if you grow with it, you know, if you run away from it, you have to keep, you know, it's just sort of, yeah. And sometimes it's just a matter of giving it time and being gentle with yourself. You can't sort of rush these things. That's my birdie clock, if you can hear that. But yeah, the kind of, you know, this is what makes us, isn't it? This is, you know, this is our tapestry, the challenges, you know, the difficult points of our life. I mean, I've had times when I just did not know what to feed my children. I didn't, you know, I could not buy them shoes and all that, you know, and it was horrible. It was horrible. And I, you know, I feel really for anyone in those situations, and I completely feel for people who are homeless. I haven't been homeless, but I so have a strong sense of how awful that must be. You know, so it's don't want to be light about those things, but when you look back, when you're beyond those things, when you've grown through them, then you're definitely a stronger person for it, definitely a more real person for it. Yeah.
Beautiful. So what was it that got you through? I mean, I can only imagine what it's like I don't know what to feed my children and I have no shoes for them. So how come you didn't collapse? You know, what was it that carried you through?
I don't know. I probably didn't get through at times. I probably did all sorts of stupid things and fell into different, you know, ridiculous relationships that didn't serve me, thinking that was the way. I don't know. I mean, doing a degree was really hard, but achieving that, and then I did teacher training afterwards, and during the teacher training my dad died, and the year later my mum died, but in the interim I had moved nearer them to support my mum, sort of thing. So it was I guess sort of you know, finding a different place in the world as well as a teacher, though that brought a lot of different stresses and strains, you know, and that then could fed my children, you know, but you know, the kindness of others as well. I remember one Christmas being really poor, and loads of people gave us presents. I don't even know whether, I just sort of remember people sort of bringing presents around for my children, and yeah, the kindness of others, I think, you know, is sort of never to be underestimated. Yeah.
It's interesting. Veronica says, clearly you've brought light to many in this world. So that's one of your achievements. But, you know, you talk about how you've grown through all these challenging experiences, and yet there's something innate within you that got you to be able to say, and not to be broken by it, to say, okay, I am going to go to college. I am going to university. I am going to get myself out of here. And I'm always, you know, impressed by that innate strength in all of us, if we can tap into it, that gets us out of whatever hole we're in, even if it's the smallest, the tiniest little step. But that, you know, you weren't picked up. It was something in you. And I know I've only ever been in university when I wasn't working, so that I could go full time and not have to, you know, I had no responsibility with children or another job or anything. I could work the weekends. That's what I did. But I was able to go in and spend all day in university. And that was lovely. And I was always amazed at how people could, you know, work part-time, go full-time, and then have children as well. How do they do it? And always get their assignments done before I did. So there's always something about that, you know, that innate strength that you have, that you just got through. And then, of course, being able to look back and reflect is just a beautiful thing. It's just amazing. So I promised we wouldn't go over much over the hour. So, and I want to go on longer. But anyway, Jules, I have to read these out. Jules says, you've woven your life into a fine tapestry with strong threads. An amazing story. Wendy says, resilience. That's what I see in Bo, strength and determination. Ellen says, I think what gets us all through is hope that tomorrow will be better. Yeah?
Yeah. I just want, thank you for those comments. That's really lovely. I just want to request that I can read another poem. It's not one I wrote,
please.
But there's a reason I'd like to read this. It was actually written for my mum's funeral. And it's just the reason I'd like to, besides having photos of my family around me because of it being Samhain, I also feel it's relevant for what's happening in the world today with all the wars, and it's just so horrendous. I think we're all very disturbed by it on one level, and trying and feel a little bit helpless about it as well. And my mum, she died a year after my dad, and a few weeks before she had her first stroke, she was demonstrating, that's the word, against the Iraq War, against when we invaded Iraq, looking for weapons of mass destruction, which I don't think we found. And there was a camera crew there, and then they went away. And then about a week later, she was on her own, and she was in her early 70s. She was 72 when she died, and she was there demonstrating on her own. And then a few weeks after that, she had a stroke, and then a few months after that, a second stroke, and died. And this particular poem was written by a friend of hers for her, but I want to read it. Her name was Meg, and my dad's name was Ken. And it's just that even though it's a personal poem to our family, I feel it kind of resonates with what's happening at the moment. So if you'd bear with me, if I could just read that. So the poem is for Meg McAllister, my mum. Humanity was mobilised that day in Exmouth town. While armies lunged towards catastrophe, Meg firmly stood in pouring rain and lashing wind. Not to say no to war as much as yes to peace. To take her stand for Ken and all she loved. To stand for all the right that they had learnt and taught, to focus in herself the better way for which they had campaigned, to demonstrate in minutes what had taken years to form, there to present her stalwart self as evidence of justice, hope and peace, as call to arms that hug in solidarity with all oppressed humanity. Her call cannot be uncalled, nor her life unlived. She stood and therefore stands hero, example, challenge, help to all she loved. We owe it to her that we activate humanity, no less, not least ourselves. Her torch is passed to us, and thankfully we stand because she stood. So that's dedicated to my mum, but I really think, at the moment, it's a timeless poem, isn't it? And
just so moving, just beautiful. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing this. Thank you so much. Heart to heart and hand in hand, very inspirational. Thank you, Meg. Beautiful. It's wonderful, powerful, wise words. That is powerful, beautiful. Wow. Yeah. Just thank you for sharing it. So, because we'd agreed we wouldn't go on, and there's so much more I want to talk to you about, and it's a bit of frustration with this lag bit. But
yeah, I don't mind if you want to do 10 more minutes. I'm okay. I'm not falling asleep yet. It's up, I can go for 10 more minutes if you want to ask me more things, or we can just call it a day at that.
Well, my two final questions.
Okay.
What is your favorite season of the year, and what is your favorite ceremony, on the wheel of the year?
Okay. Favorite season. I think for years I would have always said spring. But as I say, now I'm not so sure because every season is so beautiful. But I think spring is the easiest one, the easiest to live at. When things pop up after a long cold winter, it's sort of like a sense of renewed hope, and you can look forward to the days getting longer. So so definitely an easier one. And wheel of the year, favorite ceremony or favorite. Gosh, that changes all the time, actually. Whenever I go to camp, it's, we tend to celebrate things. Every time we celebrate it slightly differently, and it goes very rich, and it's a real journey. So I'm not sure I've even got one. I think, I mean, I feel different energies and different powers at different times of the year within me, but I'm not sure that makes it a more favourite time. Obviously, where I stand and have stood in my life, Samhain's always been a sort of, a strong time for me, even though it's a personal struggle as well, and that's the kind of dichotomy of a lot of things in life, isn't it? Whether that makes it my favourite time of year, yeah, maybe. Beltane's a funny one. I mean, I love, when we're at Wild Ways, I love aspects of Beltane. I love taking my fiddle and this year sort of fiddling with whilst everyone's dancing around, the tree, and, there's aspects of that, and you just look at it and people are in joy, they're joyously celebrating together, which is very different, I don't know, very different. Everything's got a gift, hasn't it? All the seasons, all the different celebrations have a different gift.
They do indeed. I'm going to ask you a third thing just before we finish. It's Samhain, and you've shared so much wisdom. Have you any last piece of wisdom to share with our viewers?
Last piece of wisdom.
Or last two, if you have a few more.
Okay, well, I'm not sure I'd call it a last piece of wisdom, but it's actually something the last thing I'd like to share with you is a little quote, actually. And it wasn't written by me, it was written by somebody called Raymond Carver. But I really resonate with it, and I'd like to leave it with you all as well. And did you get what you wanted from this life? Even so, I did. And what did you want? To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on this earth.
Wow, and that says it all. Bo, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. People just love, again, just wonderful conversation. Beautiful time together. Oh, that was sweet. Thank you. Super lady. It's been that's you, the super lady. It's been very enjoyable. Oh, that hits in the gut in a good way. Glorious. Thank you both. That was perfect. We have just wonderful viewers, and when they come every week, I just so appreciate it. So interesting, both. Thank you for explaining your soul midwifery. Such valuable work. I've never heard of it. Should be widely understood and used. Lovely. So much appreciated. Thank you both for sharing your story, for such a colorful, fun, honest insight. I love listening to tonight's conversation. Thank you both. The last poem was powerful. Thank you for an emotional chat. Thank you for an inspiring evening. And it has been. I'm blown away. That's Geraldine. So you need to put some stones in your pockets, Geraldine. Cathartic chat. We never know. I never know how it's going, how this conversation will how it'll meander. It's just beautiful. So I'll let you say goodnight to everybody, and then we can have a chat and we can look at the comments after once I go off. We go off air.
Okay. Well, I'm holding Badger. I don't know whether you realise why we had to hold Badger up, so that we wouldn't be talking over each other. But he's going to say goodbye first. Goodbye, everybody. Hello. And Wilhelmina's going to say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. And I'm going to say goodbye. And yeah, thank you so much for for your, whoever you are, wherever you are. Thank you. God bless.
See you soon. So thank you all so much for joining us this evening and your wonderful comments. And I know there were way more than I could actually read or acknowledge because it was going so fast. But thank you all. And I look forward, and hopefully you can join us this Saturday at 7 p.m. UK time for our online sound ceremony. I won't be here next week because I'm going to a conference, but I'll be back in 2 weeks with another chat. In the meantime, Banachtina Haunajiv, the blessings of sound to you, and also those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, the blessings of Bealtaine to you. May you enjoy the rich vitality and explosion of growth in the environment, while we are heading in to draw in more into the dark time of the year. Both of them magical. And Ihawa, so good evening to you, or good morning, good afternoon, or if you're watching a recording of this chat. Until Slán go fóill, until we meet again.